Good evening, everyone. Alright, this is actually take 2. I had already done the entire video, and as I was playing it back, I couldn't hear myself because I have fluorescent lighting that has a bad ballast in it, and all I could hear is the hum of the ballast. So, please forgive me if the lighting isn't the greatest in here. I have a 4 bulb fluorescent tube right up above here that gives really good light, but the other fluorescent fixture down further, unfortunately, is going bad and I need to replace it. I do have LED lighting that I want to put in place of the fluorescent lighting, but that is further on down in the whole renovation of this basement. So tonight, let me get some of this stuff out of the way because it won't make sense with everything here, but I would like to talk about cartridges, mainly because I watched a video this past week, and I'm sorry if I don't look directly at you a lot because I got one light bar right behind my camera and it is blinding me. So hopefully I'm illuminated enough. I got LED lights all around instead of these fluorescent ones. But the guy, he kind of went over the cartridges, but it seemed more, I don't know how you want to call it, a little bit of a detachment. He was younger. I don't think he had any of this stuff as a child, so he's kind of just explaining about it, but I grew up with Atari. I was 10 years old in 1977. I got to see all the commercials on TV. My mouth would water whenever I see this stuff. It's like, whoa, look what you can do with your TV. You can plug this little box up to it and it makes pictures on your screen. Not just from what's coming from the networks. This is so cool. And I bugged my parents enough that I actually got, I don't remember if it was for my birthday or for Christmas, but I got a light sixer made in Taiwan. Now, everything that I'm showing you here tonight is nothing original to me. If it was, you wouldn't have all these edges messed up and stuff, because what I would do is whenever I got a game, I would take the game out of the case, or out of the box, and I would put the game boxes in cardboard boxes and put them in our cubby holes, because we have a Cape Cod style. So it's basically one floor and then 2 rooms on top with a really high-pitched roof, and we have cubby holes on each side. So in our long cubby hole that spanned the whole length of the house, I had all of my models in one part, and then we had a whole bunch of other stuff the rest of the way through. And I also had the cardboard boxes with all the cartridge boxes in. Then on the other side of the house, we had our steps coming up, so there were 2 small cubby holes, one for each room. And my sister got married, I'd like to say 76 maybe, I can't remember. I honestly cannot remember whenever she got married. But she moved out, so her upstairs bedroom became kind of like my playroom, so to speak. I had a small chemistry setup in there. I had the Atari up there, books, magazines, that kind of stuff. And I either had a couch or a single bed. No, it had to be a couch, but I don't think so. Maybe it was a really, really old couch from the 60s. Got put up there whenever we got a new couch. I can't remember, but it does seem like I had a couch up there. Anyway, I was really, really into Atari. I belonged to Atari Age. Before AtariAge.com was a thing, they actually had a magazine, and I remember there was one article where Nolan Bushnell was, I guess he was kind of ranting about how, if I look away, it's because I'm trying to think also. but he was ranting on how whenever Atari started, it was all fun and people would come in jeans and tennis shoes and T-shirts and things and have beards and work but have fun working, and that I guess whenever they sold to Time Warner, that he said that whenever the lawyers started to come in and the business people started to come in, that they had to start dressing more in suits and dress clothes, and that they didn't like it that much. I do remember reading that article because I think Nolan always did the front page commentary thing. Okay, so the whole thing about this is that guy was going through the cartridges and he was methodic with it and everything, but there was some stuff that he left out that I thought I'd like to put in one of my videos, and hopefully you like watching it. Okay, the first thing is we're going to start off with Atari. I have 3 cartridges here. They're all combat. The reason I have 3, is to play dominoes. No, not really. So I'm not sure how well you can see these, so let me lean forward. Hopefully you can see that. If you notice, they all look different. One has 0-1 combat, one has combat, and one has combat with a different color. Okay, from what I can remember of this, the 0-1 combat, this was the style of cartridge that I got with my Light 6er. It came with combat and it had a number on it. Now I have 0-1, 11, 12, and one other number, but I can't remember what the other labels were. So I would say that early on, they had actually numbered their cartridges. Not just that they had the CX number down here, but they also had them numbered this way, which I thought was interesting. But after that, and it was all just text. And what's interesting about this is it's kind of a silver with black, and then I don't know if you can see it, but where the red is, you probably can't see it on there, but it's like it was actually painted. There's a stripe that goes the whole way across here, and all this is red. Kind of like what they did with the Vectrex with the screen overlays. It was like that. Okay, that was the first generation. Then what came up was this style. The label's a little bit different, and it doesn't have a number in front of it. It just has the name and the games on it. Then, after that, I guess to keep interest, they changed the cartridges again, and they actually put the box picture on the cartridge. These are kind of neat, but since this is the style that I had, I like this better. And one other thing about their cartridges is they slide over each other. It's textured, but there's nothing that gives you a really good grip. But one of the neat things with Atari is that they had these protectors. There's a protector inside the 2600 and in the cartridges, so it kept them really clean. Next I want to talk about, let me move my stool back a little bit. Next I want to talk about Activision. Activision I think is very important because these are guys that work for Atari, but when they weren't getting recognition for the games, they decided to break off from Atari. They still had good relations with them, and if I remember right, they became the first third-party game supplier for the 2600. And what I like about their cartridges is they're very bright. All of their cartridges are very bright. Purple, pink, orange, red, yellows. Very disco 70s kind of coloring stuff. Not that I was into that. I actually didn't like the colors of the 70s, but their labels made them very interesting. And one of the first things that I noticed whenever I got an Activision cartridge was that it doesn't have the protection on here. I thought, oh man, that's got to be really bad. Wow, anything could break that. But I never really had, nothing ever got in here to break it. So that was cool. One thing about the Activision ones, was that it seemed like this case, this cartridge was really thought out. It has indents here and here on the sides, and then it has protrusions on the back. It has their name, and it has these lines in here, which makes it either pulling out this way, gives you a good grip, or even going this way, your fingers can get a good grip on these lines and pull out. The Ataris, they had a little bit of a lip here, but that was really it. Not that it really mattered, because I never had any problems getting the Atari ones out, but these were neat because if you bought another Activision game, you could put them together and they didn't slide. So that was kind of cool. Before I get into the other Activision game, I wanted to show you a Magic. A Magic was probably, after Activision, my next favorite cartridge supplier. They had some really good games. I loved Demon Attack. I thought the graphics on that were great. And they had these really cool cartridges with a silver label, silver with black lettering so you could see what the game was. Their earlier ones just had lettering. It didn't have a picture. Their later ones had a picture. But as you can see, it had this nice grip here that you could use to push in and out on the cartridges. Also, this was nice because if you had a stack of games, it was still easy to get the Magic ones out. I wonder if they did that on purpose. This is also an Activision cartridge. The plastic part is still the same, but if you notice, the labeling is a lot different. This is later on, and I was on an auction site, and I saw that there was there was a Demon Attack cartridge that had the same style of label. So I think at one point, maybe after 84, that Activision bought up Magic. But I think that the people that started Magic, I think they were also from Atari, that they broke off from Atari and started their own game company. Okay, so that's that for that. US games. US games had two different styles. They had US games VidTech and US games. Cartridges still pretty much the same. They had a little bit more of a curve, and they had these little pools that were great for getting the cartridges in and out. But it was kind of neat to see the two different styles that they had. Okay, and you had other companies that made cartridges. This is CBS Electronics. This one's called Blueprint. They made some other games. As you can tell, hopefully, that these are kind of a darker beige or brown color, but they still had some lines on here so you could either use your hand this way or pull out this way. And these ones, it seemed like they're not exactly the same, but you could still lock them in. Yeah, right there. You lock them in with the Activision games. So that seems like that was on purpose. But again, it's just pretty much a basic cartridge. The same way with, the same way with 20th Century Fox. They made some games. This one's MASH. They made some other ones from movies and stuff. They got these ridges. It's really nice to pull out. They got their nice logo back here. They also have the rails and the indents, but they're a different size than the Activision, so they will only fit onto theirs. Let me see, what do I want to do next? Oh, Epics. Again, it has the ribs on the sides that you can pull, and it also has down here in the back, so you can pull them out. And the interesting thing about Epics, and all I have is Summer Games and one other one, but it looks like, I think they only made 3 games for the Atari, and I think they were all white with blue lettering labels. ColecoVision, well, Coleco had the ColecoVision, but they did make games for the Atari, and they made them in these lighter beige cases. They had Coleco on the back here. It was indented, so whenever you could get a really good grip to pull, or they also had these ribs on the side that you could pull out on. So that was kind of a standard, I guess. But nothing else really exciting about theirs. Then there was this one company, and I don't remember these whenever I was buying the games. I'm not sure if this was in America, but these are from a company called Zonox. Zonox. I don't remember actually seeing these in the stores anywhere. It has 1983 on it, made in USA. So I just don't remember seeing these in the store. But what was neat about these is that they had two cartridges. You plugged it in this way, it was Chuck Norris. You plugged it in this way, and it was Artillery Duel. So you got two games out of this. So that was a neat concept. Then here we have, Parker Brothers. Parker Brothers made some games. They made Frogger for the 2600 and a bunch of other systems. But they had the most interesting cases, I think. Not only did they have their name on it, but they had lines on most of it. They had these nice bevels that just made it the most eye-catching cases out of all of these. It wasn't like super easy to get them in, or well, push them in, that was fine, but get them out, some of these other concepts were a little bit better. Then after that, this is an honor, and the one thing that this guy kind of really missed, he showed this kind of cartridge, but basically just dissed it for a couple seconds and that was it. But on the back it stamped Mattel Inc. Now, if you know anything, remember anything about Mattel at this time, they were competing against Atari and Coleco. Okay, Coleco, they have Donkey Kong, but they still call it Coleco. Their games were Coleco. Mattel had the Intellivision. And it seems like when they wanted to start making games for the 2600, they didn't want to use the name Intellivision or Mattel directly. What they did was, on their boxes, the branding was M Network. I guess for Mattel Network. But what they did was kind of ingenious. Is again, they had the Intellivision. This is an Intellivision cartridge. So if you notice, basically the same size, same width, all that kind of stuff. It seems like the only thing is that the card inside was actually wider than the Atari ones. So it seems like all they did was they were able to use the same molding for the cartridge, change the card, and just added this little adapter so they can put it into the Atari. I thought this was genius. It saved a lot of money, didn't have to go into completely retooling or buying someone else's cartridge, and they had something really unique. Now, the guy didn't like these at all. Me, it's not so much that I didn't like them because I didn't know what they were. My problem is that if you notice, this sticks up higher. So you can't stack these very well. Not at all, really. After you get about 5 of these, I mean, the fifth one is kind of like this. Anything on top of that, they're going to slide off. So you can't really stack these, which is a shame. These ones, fine. You don't have that. It's just flat. It stacks just like everything else. But these are a pain to stack. And the games were kind of interesting. Some of them were interesting. You had games like Frogs and Flies. I never really got into that one. Tried it. Wanted to like it. Just did not like it. Okay, that's it for the cartridges. I have an honorable mention because this isn't a cartridge. This is Phaser Patrol, made by a company that had to change its name from Arcadia to Starpath because Arcadia was used by someone else and they couldn't use it. Although the other company used Arcadia 2001, they still weren't allowed to use the term Arcadia. But this is, well, it is a cartridge. But the cartridge doesn't just have a game on it. You don't keep buying these cartridges. What it is, it's a cartridge that fits into your Atari that also connects to a tape deck. Boom boxes were big at the time, and I have my Panasonic Platinum, and Earth, Wind & Fire used to do commercials for them. It was really cool. But what you would do is you would plug this into your Atari, And I really like the handle. I mean, this thing, you know, look how huge this is compared to a regular cartridge. It's like, wow, you're getting something here. But you plug this in. This had RAM in it. You would plug this into a tape deck, and then you would get your cassette. The games came on cassette. You put your cassette in. Now you had side A and side B. You'd try side A first. Side A was a fast loader. If it didn't work, if you had problems, then you would flip it over and use side B, which took longer. Not that side A was fast. I mean, you're still talking, I don't know, it seemed like days for this to load whenever I was a kid. It was probably a minute or two to play through, but it just seemed like forever. Maybe 5 minutes. I never tried side B because I never wanted to see how long it took. But these games were really cool, and their boxes, they numbered them. I would like to get all of their boxes, but I don't know if that'll ever happen. I had a couple of the games. I had a couple of the games whenever I was a kid. I never had all of them, but this I thought was just such a unique concept. It was like, whoa, look at that thing. That is really cool. So now that I got my Atari working again, well, not that it wasn't working, now that I got my Atari hooked up properly, I really want to try this and see if the cassette even still works. But I wanted to give this as like an honorable mention because you didn't have to keep buying that supercharger, you just bought it once. Okay, that's it for the cartridges. A little bit of reminiscing. One little bonus is, since I showed the box of this, I also wanted to show you a little bit about the boxes. Now, I said about how Activision had kind of 70s disco style. You can really see it in their artwork here and on the sides. The artwork, the colors they used here are also on the side images. These cases were, or these boxes were always interesting. Although you couldn't really tell what the actual game was like from this. Another box that always would catch the eye, I think they did this on purpose just to do that, were the Magic ones. They were always silver with the red, orange, and I guess it's a rainbow here. It's, again, still very 70s style. I thought those were nice. A kind of unique one, at least from what I remember, were the Parker Brothers one boxes, that is. This one is Empire Strikes Back. I also, as a kid, I had the Frogger one. I played Frogger all the time, but these ones were neat because they open up and the game's inside instead of just the flap lifting up on the top. The Magic ones were also interesting because you pulled them, it was open on the bottom and you pulled the case out and the game's there. I don't want to do it because it's starting to break. And then Atari, here's kind of, just like their cartridges went through a progression, their boxes did also. I don't think that this is the original. I'd like to say that there was still a different style before this, but as you can see, this one is kind of an orangish color, still kind of like a 70s color kind of thing going on here with the picture. Then, at the time whenever the 800 and 400 computers came out, yeah, they were kind of like gaming consoles, but Atari wanted to kind of brand them as computers for doing adult stuff. So those computers all had silver boxes, you know, to like have them stand out and stuff. And then the 2600 after a while, might have been after the 5200 came out, because the 5200 kind of had that silver style also. They started making their boxes in kind of a silverish color, which at that point I'd buy the games, but I didn't really care for this style of box. Then way after I got out of the 2600 stuff, and even my 5200 and ColecoVision were getting a little bit older, Atari came out with that Atari Junior, 2600 Junior or whatever, And I think that's whenever these boxes started to come out. This one says 1988 on it, and they're red, and the labels on these are also red. But I never really got these ones. I was already, well, 1988, I was in the Air Force, and I really wasn't collecting Atari, and I completely missed the whole NES thing. But that's my collection I wanted to show you tonight. I don't think I have anything special else to show, so I hope you liked a little bit of my reminiscing. I didn't really get into too deep into stories, but I didn't want to keep this long. I could have made this an hour. And I hope you liked my comparison of the different games. And I just want to say good night, and just think how nice this world would be if everyone would treat everyone else the way they wanted people to treat them. Good night, everyone.